Today I want to redo one of my oldest videos. This was one of the really awful ones. This was back before I had a counter here that I could use to face the camera. A friend of mine did the camera work for this earlier video and he had to shoot over my shoulder or around my side. It was an awful video. That was back when we were figuring out what we needed for me to do videos properly. This is salmon jerky. I got my first taste of salmon jerky from my Uncle Charlie, who was a marine biologist in Alaska. And one year he sent us a box of salmon jerky and I fell in love with it. It took decades for me to finally find a good recipe for making salmon jerky at home. That's what I want to do today, is I want to make salmon jerky. First thing I need to prepare is the marinade. So I have a small saucepan here into which I'm going to be putting 1/2 cup, which is about 120 milliliters of soy sauce. And then I have 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. This happens to be dark brown sugar. You can use golden brown if you want, or light brown. I don't think it really matters. Then you need about 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. I'm just going to grind a good amount of black pepper in there. And that will probably be good enough. This is the important thing right here. This is Wright's Liquid Smoke. I bought this on the aisle in the grocery store where they sell the marinades. This has got a hickory smoke flavor to it. I need 1 teaspoon. A little goes a long way. Is 1 teaspoon of Wright's Liquid Smoke. I've got this heating over medium-low heat. I don't need to bring this up to a full boil. My real concern here is I just want to heat this enough to where I'm dissolving the sugar. And if you tap the spoon on the bottom, you can hear that little crunch, that sugar on the bottom. So this has to go maybe another minute to get that all dissolved. All right, I'm checking the bottom there. I'm seeing pepper in the bottom, but very little sugar. That should be okay. I'm going to let that cool down. You're obviously going to need a salmon fillet. I bought this at Costco. I like them with the skin on because it helps everything to hold together better. And you need about 2 pounds, which is about 900 grams. This piece here is a little bit over that. This is actually pretty close to 1 kilogram because this is almost 2 1/4 pounds. So I'm going to move this to my cutting board. And then keep one hand dry if I can. You need a really sharp knife for this because you have to cut through not only the flesh but also the skin, which can be a little bit difficult to cut through. If you don't have a really sharp knife, if you have one that's good enough that you can get through the meat, keep a pair of kitchen scissors on hand. These are kitchen scissors. They come apart for easy washing. You can use the scissors to cut through the skin, but I happen to have a really sharp knife here. You want to cut long strips that are about 1/4 of an inch to maybe 3/8 of an inch wide, or about 1 centimeter. And then what I have set aside is a bowl with a plastic bag in it that I'm going to put the strips in. So I have this whole piece to cut up while I'm waiting for my marinade to cool. This is going to take a few minutes. Just doing my last cut here of the salmon. In case you're wondering what kind of salmon this is wild-caught sockeye salmon that I bought at Costco. I prefer not to use farmed fish when I make this jerky. It just doesn't have a lot of flavor, but the fresh wild salmon tastes really good. All right, so there's all my salmon now in my plastic bag. My marinade now has cooled pretty much completely. I'm going to pour that into my bag holding the fish. That, by the way, is a 1-gallon Ziploc bag. Piece of skin dangling there. Take that out. distribute that down a little bit. Seal it. If I can get that to seal, there it goes. Okay. And that's my fish marinating. You can go anywhere from 15 minutes up to 1 hour, depending upon how strongly flavored you like your fish. I'm going to go 45 minutes. And what I'm going to do, about every 10, 12 minutes or so, I'm going to flip the bag over to keep distributing that marinade because it settles down to one side. While I'm waiting for my salmon to marinate, I'm going to prepare 2 large baking sheets. These measure about 12 by 17 inches or 30 by 43 centimeters. Into each of them, I'm going to be putting in a rack, and because these racks are so difficult to clean afterwards, I'm going to cover it with parchment paper. Again, I have 2 of these to prepare. My salmon now has been marinating for 45 minutes. I'm wearing rubber gloves because the marinade has a very strong hickory smoke aroma to it. And I don't want to get it on my hands because I want to fall asleep tonight. And this piece here might help you to appreciate why I like the skin on. See how the flesh sometimes breaks up there? But the skin holds it all together. And I'm laying these out so they're not quite touching each other. Also, in the meantime, I'm heating my oven to the lowest setting I can put on my oven, which is 170 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 77 degrees Celsius. If your oven goes lower, heat it to at least 150 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 degrees Celsius. Okay, so it's going to take me a few minutes to lay all this salmon out, and then I'll be ready to place it in the oven to dry out. So there are my 2 sheets now of marinated salmon. I'm going to place these in the oven, and I'm going to leave my oven on all night long. Again, it's running at about 170 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 77 degrees Celsius, and tomorrow I will have salmon jerky. So here we are now, the following day. My salmon has been drying in the oven overnight. I did want to mention that if you buy fresh fish, your home shouldn't have an offensive fishy smell to it. Mine doesn't. My kitchen does have a slight aroma of the hickory smoke from the marinade, but that's not offensive. So let's see what the salmon jerky looks like. Here is one of my 2 sheets of salmon. Look at that. Remember how flimsy that was before? It was all limp as I was laying it out. Now it's all stiff and dry. The last step is to see what this tastes like, although I know what it's going to taste like. I've made this many, many times. I took a little piece here. Some people peel the skin off. I do. Some eat it with the skin on. When we had that box of salmon jerky from my uncle, we gave the skin to the dog, and the dog loved it. If you've got a dog or a cat, you can give the skin to them. Wow. You can definitely taste the salmon. It tastes a lot of like smoked salmon. You can taste that smoky flavor. It's chewy, but it's also a little bit crisp. This is really good. So that's how easy it is to make salmon jerky at home. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit my website, mobilehomegourmet.com, and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.